Yeah, here, brother. Tony, it's good, brother.
Sunny.
Oh, yeah, actually, we can use the. Hopefully, you guys can hear us. We got the mic going.
Hey, hey, hey.
So, in an effort to keep this moving, we're just gonna go ahead and get right to it. So, once again, this is Tabari and Nadia here, representing the Two Average People podcast, where we are the anti-love guru podcast. We are just here to talk about the realities of love and relationships and marriage, especially in the Black and Brown communities. We're trying to make it better for those people who really want to make it better. Marriage is work, but it's worth it.
That's right.
Work, but it's worth it.
Yep.
So that's what we like to talk about today. So, how was your week, man? Since our last broadcast?
I ain't gonna lie. It's been an emotional week.
Yeah.
It's been an emotional week. I gotta say, PMS has something to do with that. You know, those hormones. You know, it's been a long day. Went to the gym this morning, so got on my workout clothes. It's just that kind of thing. Um,
Shout out to the gym.
yeah. Gotta get it in.
Gotta get it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you?
It's been a productive week, generally speaking, and I like to keep my productivity high. But this week in particular, I've been like really happy to just kind of chill out a little bit and just kind of ease, as my dad would say, ease and press.
Ease and press.
Ease and press.
Ease
You
and
must
press.
ease and press.
Yeah. All right, baby. Let's jump into it. Let's jump in it real quick. All right. So our last podcast, if you haven't checked it out, we talked about some red flags.
Please check it
There's
out.
tons of red flags, and sometimes you don't even realize the red flags until it's like a hindsight 2020 situation. Like, oh, that's a red. That was definitely a red flag. But the goal, I guess, with this discussion is to try to talk through and see how many of these things we can notice up front, especially if you are um, dating, looking to settle down, or have
Mhm.
a big relationship, or whatever the case may be. Want to talk about the potential red flags that can come up. So, again, if you haven't checked it out,
I'm working on putting it in the chat right now.
okay, cool.
I gotta pull up the link, and I'm in the back end of YouTube, and it's taking me everywhere but where I want to go. So give me 1 second, guys. But I will put this in the chat. But in the meantime, if you guys could do me a favor, whoever is in, go ahead and leave a comment in the chat. Leave a comment down below, because all that stuff helps the algorithm God allow us to eventually monetize, because that's needed in life. But more importantly, leave a comment in the chat if you are rocking with what we're talking about, or if you just feel like you have something to add. We want to hear from you, and it's important to join the conversation. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. Okay, we're gonna talk about flags in relationship in 1 second because I am almost here. Get it? So I can drop it in the chat for you guys. And here it is. It is in the chat. The link is in the chat. If you haven't seen it already, please go check out the video from Monday talking about red flags uh, as we see it. So the first red flag that we have on our list is lack of communication.
So the list that we're doing here is a little different than the list that we have in our podcast. Okay, so just it's continuation again of red flags. So
Yes,
just want to
that's true.
make sure that to make that clear. So you what?
You know what I will do? I will also halfway through, I will put the link to this article that we're reading from uh, in the chat as well, so that we can kind of all see where this is coming from. All right. Okay. So yes, the first red flag is lack of communication. Now, the question that I have for you is: I know as far as a couple is concerned, we haven't always communicated the most effectively.
Mhm.
That's part of the reason why we really try hard to communicate well now,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So, what were some of the things that you saw in our relationship when we were experiencing a serious lack of communication?
Um, hmm, I think we had to understand that we um, speak differently, I
Mm,
guess.
yeah,
Um, and so what I mean by that is, as a woman, I communicate very differently from him as a man, and
right.
obviously as an audience, I communicate him sorry. And so we had to learn that, we communicate differently. And I scream this at the roof. I scream this all the time, guys. That communication is more than just talking,
It is.
right? It's listening, body language, a whole lot of things. And so um, we had to really understand all of that before we could actually hear each other properly. And so I think that was probably our biggest challenge is or hurdle is trying to figure out each other, how we hear, how we understand,
Yeah, for sure.
and it's hard because you're supposed to understand how another person communicates through your own lens, and that can be kind of difficult.
Yeah, for sure. For
Um,
sure.
so I had to pay attention to things like I've said this before too. We're not morning people. As we've gotten older, it's a little
It's
better,
a little easier.
but we're not morning people. And so, talking to him in the morning about something that I expect him to retain or stick or a disagreement we had the night before, like that's just not a good idea because he's, I don't have the best of him.
True.
And so, if I want him to hear something that I'm saying and I really want him to hear it, I either have to say, hey, this is really important, or I have to be mindful of, what frame of mind he might be in. So, that's different for everybody coming home from work. It may not be the best time
That's
to have a
not
long conversation about the dishes
on and
or,
yeah,
so you really have to, I think that was probably what I would say is one of the biggest hurdles, really paying attention to that. And you're not always going to get it right. Like sometimes
yeah, that part.
you just say it, like, because that takes energy, all that takes time to
Yeah,
think about where the other person is in your space. And, we just talked about this yesterday, but you're not done. It's a lot.
it's a
And
lot.
sometimes you
It's a
don't,
lot.
you don't get it. You don't always get it.
One
So,
one of the things that I know that I used to do all the time, and for my fellas out there listening, let me know if I've got this right or wrong. But like we would go through an issue, and in my mind, we were done because I said I don't want to talk about this anymore. So then, like hours go by, night goes by, the next day goes by, and I'm good because I'm like I don't want to talk about this. Or what I would say was, "Can we talk about this later?" But then later would never come.
yeah.
Yeah, so now you had to be like, "Look, if you're gonna talk about this later, I have no problem with that because I don't wanna fight about stuff." But, like, never can never come. Like,
Right.
we gotta eventually come back and talk about this. We gotta
Right.
talk through this at some point.
I mean, I actually recommend talking about things later sometimes. I know some people are very like, no, let's do this right
Right
now.
now.
But I
Yeah.
actually think it's a really bad idea to talk when you're emotional,
Yeah,
and you're in an emotional place. And so if something just happened, and you are, you know, upset or you're heated about it or whatever the case may be, I always recommend just taking some time working through your thoughts, dealing with your emotions, and then sitting down to talk about it with a clear head.
for sure. For sure.
But I know people that are like, no, I have to deal with this if I can't go to bed, and so
I think you gotta know who you're
you
dealing
gotta
with
know
in your
what's
partner.
gonna work, right?
Yeah, you gotta deal
Yeah,
with your partner from the even playing field. And I feel like for the most part, we definitely would do that, and we would do it relatively well.
mhm, mhm,
Uh, but it was just in those pain points that we would uh we would find ourselves kind of in as my Guyanese dad would say, fuckatory. You find yourself in fuckatory. It just meaning you find yourself in a place that wasn't exactly where you wanted to go, and now things are a little turned around. So, I don't know. When it comes to lack of communication for me, um, my experience wasn't so much the lack of communication, but for me it was kind of the opposite, was the over communication, and over communication not of what you think, but of what you feel. Because I didn't always know how to process what you were feeling against what you were thinking against the situation at hand or the problem at hand.
Mhm.
Because those are three different things depending on what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
There are trigger points that your partner probably had. Um, and so it was difficult to parse out what was just I'm feeling this way versus, oh, this is the way I think about it. This is my
Mhm.
thought process
Mhm.
around the topic versus, well, this is what we need to do to address the issue. And it just became a little jumbled in my mind a lot of the time. And so my thought process to deal with it was, all right, well, I don't want to talk about this. Not the greatest way of handling it, but you got to be real with yourself. You got to be real on this podcast because that's what we try to do, right?
Absolutely.
So, yes, lack
Yeah.
of communication from that perspective. Leave a one in the chat if lack of communication is your red flag that you either see or recognize in yourself.
Mhm.
And we will respond with, yeah, we go through that too. Number two is disrespecting boundaries. Now that's a big one. I gotta tell you, disrespecting boundaries is a big one because for a lot of us, we either don't establish those boundaries well and so they get trampled on easily, or we set those boundaries well, at least we think we do, and the other person just didn't kind of catch the message, or that boundary gets broken because this is the type of person that they are. Like maybe your boundary is not like cursing in an argument, right?
Mhm. Right.
But there might be some people who, in an argument, that's the first thing they do. Not necessarily indication of anger for them. This is just their vernacular. It's how
Mhm.
they talk,
Mhm.
how they speak.
Mhm.
However, now a boundary is broken.
Right. Yeah.
So, have we broken boundaries?
I don't know. I have trouble with this one because I don't know. I'm sure at some point you've broken some boundary with your partner,
Yeah,
right?
I'm sure. Sure of it.
Um,
Sure of it. Sure of it.
I think though the issue becomes when you continuously break those boundaries.
Mm.
Like if, for instance, I'm like, I really, really don't like when you curse at me. Like I just don't like it.
Yeah.
And you continue to curse at me,
Yeah.
So it's like that is, I think, kind of where I think the disrespecting boundaries comes in. Um, but I don't know. I'm sure at some point you've crossed or disrespected a boundary. Maybe not, probably not intentionally, but definitely
I'm
it
sure it's
happens
happened.
because you get comfortable, and when you're comfortable, as I hope you would be with your spouse or your partner,
Thank you.
um,
Good luck to you.
you sometimes will cross the boundary
Yeah.
because you're just comfortable.
So what does it look like to cross the boundary in a marriage? I mean, does it look like cheating? Does it look like lying? I think I think ultimately what it looks like is first understanding your boundary.
Right. Well,
You know
well,
what I'm
right, right.
saying?
That part. You
Like
really have to understand your
you have to
boundaries
understand the
and to
boundaries
know how to communicate
because ultimately the boundaries is set by your partner
them. Right,
and is enforced by your partner. It's both.
right.
Is they're both set and enforced by your partner, which means if you have a boundary, if I set a boundary with you, when I'm in the studio and I'm working, I'm not to be interrupted. But every single time you come to the studio, I never say you're interrupting me.
Right,
I love you, but I'm being interrupted at the moment. I don't like that. Then ultimately, what's stopping you from continuously doing that?
right.
And as a return, what's stopping me from becoming more and more resentful of it? then what happens is over the next few months, you come to the studio constantly, and then on month 2, day 1, I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
You know?
Mhm.
And you're like, "Dude, relax.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
just came to tell you dinner was ready."
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think the first thing you got to do is understand that your partner sets that boundary, but the partner has to also understand that they have to enforce that boundary. If you don't enforce your boundaries, can you say that your boundaries were disrespected? I don't know. That's a good one.
Well, some people,
That's a good one.
yeah, true, yes, but some people may say there shouldn't be any boundaries.
How does that work? No boundaries in a marriage.
I
How does
should
that
be able
work?
to have all access to you and you to me. But some people, what boundaries are we actually setting in our marriage?
That's a weird concept.
It is, but
Not, I mean, not knocking you because that you're absolutely right. That you're absolutely right. But when I'm thinking about that in practice, like, ooh,
so like one of your boundaries is don't go through your stuff.
yes, no
That's
need to go through
he's
my
like
stuff. I will
don't go. That's
gladly. I will open up my wallet, my phone, my computers, my tablet.
he doesn't want me. He doesn't
Don't
like
go
when
through anything
anybody
else.
goes through his stuff. If
Don't go
he'll
through
rather me say, hey, let me see your phone,
your facts.
and he'll give me the phone. And
I'd
now,
rather
if
not.
I'm asking to see his phone, then we have a whole other conversation to
Facts.
talk about. But the point is, some people will say there shouldn't be any boundaries. If I want to go through your stuff, I should go through your stuff.
Yeah, no.
I'm not saying that's how I feel.
No,
But what I'm
absolutely not.
saying is,
Because
like,
once you're not it,
some people may say, well, why do you have boundaries in your relationship? And so, but the way that I see it, it's more than just creating boundaries because you're trying to create a wall from yourself. It's making sure that you create boundaries, for your own sanity and your own
yeah,
mental health.
yeah,
And that's what he was saying. You have to know what those boundaries are. You know, so that you can be the best that you can be for your relationship.
yeah,
So it's more, if you don't think of boundaries as a wall, more so than more so of okay,
yeah,
I just need some me time.
yeah.
Like yesterday, I was in a mood, so I was like, hey, look, babe, I gotta go home. Walking very therapeutic. That wasn't saying, hey, look, I don't want you around. That's saying, hey, look, I need to clear my head. I just went for a walk, and he could feel some kind of way about it. He could say, look, well, fine, if you don't want to talk, you don't want to tell me what's going on with you, or he can recognize, you know what, she's really in a mental space. She needs some. So it's really how you look at the boundaries. It's really how you
Yeah,
you know.
I look at boundaries like police tape. Caution beyond this point.
Nobody talks.
Some people do.
Ah, true.
Some people do. But it's more like you can see what's happening. But I need space. I need to create a perimeter.
Yeah,
And if you come inside this perimeter, I'm gonna do my best, but I make no promises
yeah,
because I am not in place to make any kind of promise.
yeah,
The best thing I can do is the most responsible thing I can think to do, and that is not to separate myself, but maybe to segregate myself just a little bit.
just a little
Just
bit.
a little bit.
Yeah,
Just to be able to create a little space so that I can go,
that's the key. This one's tricky because you don't want to set up too many boundaries because again, you don't want your partner to feel isolated from you because you
right,
have up all these boundaries for
right,
whatever reason.
right.
And it could. This is where the red flag comes in because it could mean like, well, why do you have all these boundaries? Are you trying to hide something, kind of thing? But at the same point, you don't want to be a person with no boundaries
Yeah,
because then, it's hard for someone to, when we're human, so we all have the potential to do whatever someone will let us do.
that,
Okay, so when you don't put up any boundaries, now you risk the person not respecting you, not respecting your time, your space, you know, taking advantage of you, even though the person you're supposed to be in love with.
And the problem is that creates monsters.
Yeah.
There's a from the Fugees album, the score, one of my favorite albums of all time. Shout out to the Fugees. There's a skit, like an interlude in there that says, if you let a brother kick you 5 times while you're down, they're gonna kick you 5 times. You're gonna let them kick you 3 times, they're gonna kick you
Yep.
3 times. You
Yep.
let them kick you once, they're gonna kick you once.
Yep.
But if you chop off the foot, ain't gonna be no more kicking.
Nope.
Now the problem is not creating real boundaries for yourself creates that thought process. It creates a thought process that gives you a sense of, well, if I cut off the feet, ain't gonna be no more kicking. Here's the problem. That thought process won't work in a marriage. Because obviously we're not talking about cutting off actual people's feet. What we are talking about is putting people in a position to be too afraid to approach. Now, in a relationship, if you're too afraid to approach, that's not a relationship anymore. That's a hostage
Absolutely.
Let's call a spade a spade.
Call a spade a
That's a
spade.
hostage situation. So anyway, let's keep going. So number 3, wait, we have some. Tony said,
I'm sorry, without change is manipulation.
honestly, I kind of see that.
Mhm.
And I will add to that. I'm sorry without understanding, meaning I'm purposely trying to understand where you're coming from genuinely. I really want to know.
Yeah.
Without that, yeah, it's truly manipulation.
Yeah.
I can't argue
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
And yeah, shout out to Lauryn Hill. I'm a fan. What can I say? Let's keep going. So number 3, lack of trust. Now that's a big one to me. That's another big one because people always say communication is key in relationships, and I never agree with that thought process fully. Not because it's wrong, just because to me it's incomplete. You know, if you are communicating but there is no trust, then you're not really communicating. You're kind of subtly negotiating is
Mhm.
what's happening. And the problem with the negotiation is sometimes negotiations go left.
Mhm.
So without trust, you really can't even have a real relationship. Not one that's romantic. I don't know how you. That might be a little extreme, but I don't honestly think you can
I
without
mean,
it being like not. What was I gonna say? What's that one where you're when you're kidnapped and now you side with the kidnapper? That what do they call that?
oh, gosh,
Leave it in the chat if you know what I'm
I'm
talking
so
about.
tired.
It's late.
My
It's late,
brain
guys.
isn't working
Yeah.
completely, y'all.
Facts.
So
Facts. So leave it in the chat if you know what we're talking about. But that's kind of what it feels. Kind of feels like that. You know, I don't know how else to put it. It feels like I should trust you, but I can't trust you. So you're still here, and I'm still here. So now I guess let's do this dance until I cannot be here anymore, or you be here anymore.
I
It feels
mean,
awkward.
trust is it's a lot of these are really broad topics. But I think with trust is kind of tricky because you don't always realize. Obviously, if somebody cheated or whatever, then that's an obvious trust thing. But like in our situation, when we had issues with trust, it wasn't infidelity.
No, it
It
wasn't.
was it just really had to do with a lot of our childhood and how we grew up. I grew up in a house with my mom, and so there wasn't a man around to hold on to, I guess, in that sense. And so, yes, my dad was in my life. Shout out to my dad. I love him very much, but he didn't live in the house with me. And so when I now got married and he would say something, it's like, oh, okay. But I realized that I couldn't hold on to his word. I didn't know what that looked like
Right.
for a long time,
Right.
and so, and with him, he felt the minute I cried or the minute I did anything, I was trying to be manipulated. Because he's like, well, he just didn't understand. As a man, it's like, well, why are you crying? We're talking about this. And it's like, no, I'm not. I'm literally emotional. And so our trust issues were a little different weren't as obvious
Right.
in the beginning, and
Right.
so we had to really, um, after a while, we had to really like peel back the layers and be like,
Exactly.
wait, what is going on?
Bring it
Like,
to the forefront and
why
say,
is it every
yeah,
time I cry, you're like, you know, thinking I'm trying to manipulate you or anything, or like, or try to,
yeah, just try to gain
like,
control of the
yeah,
situation. Yeah.
no. Um, so yeah, I think trust um is something that can be very fragile, I guess,
Yeah, I mean,
if you're not
honestly,
careful.
yeah, it can be very careful, and we did have to peel back the layers. And for me, I just had a healthy distrust of female emotion
Right.
because
Yeah.
it seemed no matter what was going on, no matter how right or wrong, as long as you cried, that was it.
That
Everything
was
else
it.
didn't matter.
Everything is
And
like,
so
oh,
we can never get to the bottom or the root of an issue because the minute the tears came, I'm an asshole if I don't stop and go, oh. And sometimes I don't feel like going, oh. Sometimes I feel like going, can we get to the point now? Can we finish this, please? You know. And the problem is, you know, if I'm not making room for her emotions, then I'm not making room for her emotions.
right,
It just kind of is that. There's no more. There's no less.
right.
And I have to leave room for it if I'm trying to actually get to where I'm going. I gotta leave room for her to have and be emotional.
Yeah.
And the truth is, I'm emotional too. I'm a whole human being. I'm not gonna act like I'm not just because I'm a dude and that's what society says I have to do. I got a whole wide range of emotions, and sometimes I need to be emotional and just let things go and let things run. Sometimes it is what it is.
What?
Yeah,
You can't do that.
I can. I can.
You sure can.
So okay,
Okay.
number 4, being difficult to rely on. Difficult to rely on as a red flag. That's tough for me. That's tough for me. Let's read the description a little bit. Is your partner unreliable or unpredictable? This is another possible red flag. A red flag. Couples are meant to make commitment to one another. So when one partner is difficult to rely on, that may be a sign that they aren't able to fully commit to the relationship. They may have other things going on in their lives and would be important to sort out before entering into a committed
Mhm.
Now, here's the thing behind that. That is rough. That's a rough thing to call because I know as a young man, especially when I hit about 23 to 25, I was serious about finding something that made sense for me and my future family. Because it it was important for me to be able to provide. But that kind of leaves us in a bit of an awkward position, especially if you're going to be that person, right? And that is, you have to go out and make money. You have to go out and make opportunities. You have to make these things happen. The more you do that, the more you look unreliable
Mhm.
for the emotional things. Home. T.D. Jake said it best in one of his more recent uh, uh, I think he was preaching teaching in one of his events, but he basically said it's kind of a no-win situation. You're either unavailable to be there, or you don't make enough money to make anybody happy. And honestly, you gotta
Yeah.
you gotta pick one
Yeah.
because unless you're working a regular 9 to 5 or blue collar work, kind of just that.
Mhm.
If you're gonna move into different echelons and in different spaces,
Yeah.
holy crap, it just is what it is.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the truth is you make time for what you wanna make time for. I highly believe in that saying. You know, obviously things happen, life happens, but you make time for what you wanna make time for. So, particularly, obviously, this is if you're dating, this is a red flag in your relationship. You
yeah,
know, it could be a sign of a lot of things, and so, scheduling those date nights and sticking to it, or, um, just, following through with things, plans and all of that. All of these are things that you should. paying attention to in your relationship. Again, things happen, life happens, so sometimes plans fall through, right, babe?
You know we will. You know we will.
I say that and I laugh because he planned so many things down to the day he proposed. He had this whole big
I
elaborate
did.
plan
I did.
of how he was gonna take me to the National Arboretum
I
and he
did.
was gonna,
I had a whole thing.
you know, be right in front of the columns there if you've never been.
So much.
And
My plans worked.
none of them,
None of
we
my
were gonna go
plans
out
worked.
to eat and it just so happened that
Like, let's go
none
to
of
your
it worked
favorite
out.
restaurant in the world. Normally she's like, yes. Today she was like,
No,
nah, I
so
don't
like
want
it
to
was
do it.
kind of gloomy, it was kind of rainy. So, you know, plans. I digress. So plans don't always work out. Hold on, we have a comment.
Oh, we have a
I think
comment.
most people like their finances. They can't budget their time and are enslaved to their desires in different ways. Yeah,
I could totally see that.
that's very true. I know, a lot of people, um, and men too, men in particular, sometimes are defined by what they can provide, right? Um, and you think about our parents' generation. A lot of the men I know, we can speak for our fathers. They define themselves by what they can provide.
And they were providers.
They were
They were
providers,
both
and
providers.
time is just wasn't
It wasn't a thing.
necessarily a thing. So
As well as the stress of having to be that person. I'm not speaking for her dad. I definitely speak for mine. Didn't always make him the nicest person to be around, even if you wanted the time.
hmm
So
hmm
it's not something that just because you're a great provider means you've got it all. So there it is.
yeah,
You really do have to kind of work it and see what's the best we can make of it.
yeah.
So, okay, let's keep it going.
Keep it going.
Before we keep going, make sure you like this video. Less for the people who are already in here liking this video. Shout out to you guys. But for those who are just watching this for the first time, please make sure you like the video. Make sure you watch it all the way through. It's very important for us to get that watch time up.
Yep.
That watch time is exactly what I want our audience to focus on for us. It brings us a lot of good offerings and sacrifices to the algorithm god, and help us get monetized so that we can help bring you guys more content and better content.
Better.
All right.
All right.
Number 5, controlling behavior. Is your partner trying to drive a wedge between certain aspects of your life, like friends, family, or career? This is a major sign of controlling behavior. Or maybe they try to have final say on where you go or who you hang out with. This type of manipulative behavior often stems from jealousy and insecurity. It's not healthy when a partner can't accept the way your lives align, and tries to change it.
Well, I didn't. I think that kind of goes without saying. It's not always easy to recognize. I think controlling behavior in the beginning sometimes, but I would think it's pretty clear as the relationship goes on or as you're in a relationship. Um, you hear a lot of women say, I want my man to take control and, I want him to be a man. And it's like,
Do you?
okay,
Yeah.
what is that really? How are you picturing that in your head?
Yeah. What
Because
does that look
you want a man to take control, okay. You want a man to take initiative, okay. But, you know, how I think sometimes we picture it is not necessarily how it would translate if they were to exhibit that behavior in the relationship. And that doesn't mean that, you know, all men are controlling or whatever, but I think when we have to be careful when we say those types of things because it's just if I went to him and say, you know what, I need you to take control. Like I need you to just be more in control of what's going on around here. I don't think that I would really like how he did that.
Nope.
Like I really don't think
Not
I
at
would
all.
like that at all
Not at all.
because the way I said it and the way he heard it, communication, it's two different. In my head, I'm thinking, I wish you would just cook more meals, or I wish you could clean up more, or I wish you could make some appointments for us, that would be nice. But, that
And
is
what I heard
not.
was slim up, we need to save money, we need to not go out as much, we need to do this, do that, meet these goals and meet these
Right.
deadlines. And you meant a whole different thing,
And I
and
meant a
I meant a
whole
whole
different
different
thing.
thing, and those
Yeah.
two things are not the same thing.
So, yeah, not at all. We have to be, control is, there's obviously many levels of control.
Yeah,
It
sure.
can get physical and all of that. And, I hope that is not your situation. But, when we're talking about subtle moments of control, just that that can be a little hard to kind of.
Yeah, because this is the hard part about controlling behavior and kind of blanket controlling behavior red flag, because there are some things that I can see as a man looking out into the world that you might not, at least not in the same way.
Mhm.
I may see something presenting danger. You might see it as not that big a deal,
Mhm.
or something that can, or something that doesn't have the height that it would need in order for you to say no. We really should do something about this.
Yeah.
But the problem is, if I say something, if I speak up, I run the risk of just being manipulative, being controlled, and effectively being red flag
Mm.
material. So check this. Here's the scenario: a man is with his girlfriend, wife, whatever. She decides she wants to go out and she wants to, she wants to be grown and sexy, but her grown and sexy is really grown and really sexy. Does he speak up and say he's uncomfortable if he is? Or is him speaking up at all manipulative?
I think see, I'm just not that simple in my thought process because if she's been dressing like that the whole time when y'all met and it's now a problem because you guys are committed and going steady, then yeah, that's a problem. That's like dating a stripper and then when you get together like I don't want you to strip anymore. Okay, well how did you think
First
you met
off,
me?
that happens all the
That
time.
happens all the
All
time.
of the time.
So in your situation, if that's how she always dressed, and now it just so happened that they've been dating for a while, and she now met moms and family, and he just doesn't want her to dress like that anymore. And now he's putting his foot down saying, "Hey, look, don't do that." That that's but that's how she always dressed.
How she always dressed.
But if that's now if it's okay, she dressed pretty, I guess conservative or not crazy.
All right.
And she lost some weight, and now she wants to put on this sexy dress, and she's showing everything.
Mhm.
And you say something, I don't necessarily see that as controlling per se, but
Yeah.
see, I have it. I'm looking at it through the context of our relationship.
Right.
For somebody else, that may be controlling because I'm a grown woman. I can wear what I want to wear, and
Yeah,
like
and that's the hard part.
I don't think
Completely subjective.
it's completely. It's just
Completely subjective. There is no objectivity
right.
to controlling behavior,
That
because
part.
my wife doesn't dress like she's not. She doesn't dress like she will. She dresses like she represents our family well.
But I've never dressed.
Yeah, you never dress
I've never dressed
ridiculously.
ridiculously.
However, if she does dress ridiculously, I I as a man am always gonna say something. I'm always gonna speak up. But it does give me pause. It makes me go, okay, this is one of those situations where you gotta bring some tact. You gotta be tactful, and you have to say what you mean and mean what you say, but you have to say it in love and with a gentle spirit, because
Mhm.
that's what the Bible says: do
Mhm.
it in love and with a gentle spirit.
Mhm.
Because if not, then I'm setting myself up for whatever else is gonna come after that, which you're gonna hear you're misogynist, you're gonna hear patriarchy, you're gonna hear all sorts of stuff that ain't wrong. Not wrong necessarily. However, for the way that I see the world might be out of context.
Yeah.
I might be going, if wear that and you go on the street and somebody hits on you or touches you in a massively inappropriate way, what do I have to do now?
But see, and that's the part where I think that you need to say. You're supposed to communicate that. If you just look at me and say, "Don't wear that because it's too sexy, go change," then that is, I would feel like you're just trying to control what I'm wearing. But if you were to explain to me, "Look, here's the deal. In this world, I know how men think. I know how they respond. I know how they react. And if you wearing that, and
Yeah.
not saying that everybody would take that
No,
well
yeah, I don't think most
or
people
not,
would take it
you know
well.
what I'm saying? But at least
Even
you're
then,
giving me more information than
that's true.
go
That is
change.
true.
I don't like what you're wearing.
That's,
So that just feels like, you know. So
at the same time,
it's just
if I'm not a person who controls your behavior, and then I look at what you got on and I say go change, to me it just looks like a lack of that you would just go do it.
well, no, because I don't have to do what you say.
That's the thing. If you don't have to do what I say, that's true, but then it feels one sided because on your side you don't have to do what I say, but if I say something, you can feel like
Well, again, that's what I'm saying. You can say something, but you have to provide more context because
mm.
other than that, it just feels controlling. You see what I'm saying?
No, I totally see what
Like
you're saying.
I'm not saying it has to be, for me at least, it would have to be more than just go change. Okay, and I'm the type of person, I'm not gonna, you know, lash out. I'm gonna say, okay, I need help me understand, tell me more
Yeah, I
of
get
what
that.
you're thinking
I get that,
because
and that is something I've always appreciated because
I
you
don't,
genuinely find a place of a middle ground, a through line.
yeah,
Okay, help me get
help,
where you're coming from,
right.
and it's not just hey, you need to. I'm not gonna. It's always let's find that middle ground.
Let's
I always
yeah,
appreciate
let's like
that.
tell me
Very
more
fair.
of what is going on so that
Yeah,
I can understand, help me help you,
yeah, yeah. I
kind of
get that.
thing. So,
I get that.
all right,
All right, let's move on.
what's the next one?
Number 6, and remember to like the video. We appreciate all that you do. Watch it all the way through because it really does help. Number 6, friends and family are wary. Now that's a big one. That's a big one. If your friends and family are like, what? It doesn't mean things are not gonna work, but it does mean that they know you enough to be questioning
Yeah,
why you're making the decisions you're
yeah,
making.
yeah. That's
And
fact.
that is fact.
That
I
is
just gotta
fact.
keep that 110, man. That's
That is
fact.
fact. I mean, they especially sometimes your parents. I know it sounds crazy, but sometimes they can really kind of look in and see um something that you can't see. And again, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the end all be all and you should, do what makes you happy. But sometimes you gotta pay attention to that.
Yeah.
I think we mentioned this in one of our other podcasts about people who just, I think it was the red flag. They don't have any,
Yeah, it was a red
like,
flag. Not having friends
not having friends.
is
This is
kind of a
for,
big deal.
like, if you're dating someone and you're like, yeah, I don't really have friends. I'm a loner. Okay, I'm a loner too,
Yeah.
but I have friends
You got friends,
and that
man.
I hang out with regularly, and I have friends. So yeah, I think that is a red flag for sure.
For sure.
If your mom or your dad or people who know you, siblings, are telling you, hey, look, this doesn't feel right. I know people that were in relationships that their parents told them
Don't do it.
don't do it, and it
Don't do it.
ended it ended bad.
Yeah. And the thing is, your parents have such vision, or your elders, I'm not parents always, but your elders in your life have such vision that they can see past the beginnings of a relationship when it's fun, and they can see into when that relationship is not going to be fun anymore,
Hmm.
and the types of not fun it's going to be, and they can be like, this is a bad idea. This is a bad
Bad
idea.
idea.
And you're still going to do it,
And you're
aren't
still
you?
gonna
Yeah,
do
you
it.
are. Okay.
Yeah.
Safe travel because
Yeah.
you about to go through. So yeah, I believe that friends and family really do have an understanding that's deeper than just what we want to give it credit for. And we should really, really give our community, um, it's just do on how we choose our partners. I think that's a really unique one and a good one to talk about. Dwelling on the past is number 7.
Dwelling on past relationships. I think it's particularly when you just start dating someone and they're talking about their past relationship all the time. That is definitely something to pay attention to. But also, if they don't talk about their past, hmm, that to
Ooh,
me is a red flag as well
that's
because
like an internal dwelling.
right, it's like you want to know enough of why you want to know if you're dating someone, you're with someone, you want to know enough about their past relationship because it tells a lot about them, but at the same time, you don't want them dwelling on it. It's like, okay, clearly you are still attached to this relationship,
Yeah.
and there may not be space for me.
The worst thing I think you can do is compare your partner to past partner,
Oh
and that
God,
stuff happens all the
that is
time. It is
horrible.
wild. Well, they used to do it like this. Well, they used to do it like this. Well, they
I,
used to do this thing for me that was really great. I really appreciate it.
I've definitely done that.
Really?
No, not to
I'm
you,
about to
but
say
because we when we broke up the first time,
we did break up, guys.
yes,
Believe it
we've broken up. Um, I was finally at the place where I started dating again. Like, a couple years and started dating again. I was dating this guy and I just in my mind kept comparing him to you.
or not. That's right.
You
What a
know,
guy.
like, cause I mean he wasn't anything anyway, but like I just remember comparing him like this would have never happened or this is some dumb stuff. I'm like, this would never happen with Safari or. Anyway, um, so I wasn't outwardly vocal with him about it, but in my mind I was like, this
All
sucks, like
right.
this stuff. Maybe I would have eventually, but
I mean, at the end of the day, um, I think, especially when you're talking about comparing partners, comparing, you know, look, any comparing at all, I'm not prepared for. And I think, thankfully, I don't have to deal with that in my relationship, and I don't think it, I don't feel it. It's not here.
we've been together so damn.
I mean, yeah, but
I'm playing,
still, you
I'm
know what I'm
playing.
saying? Even
I gotta
then,
throw something in there.
I'm blessed that I don't have to feel that
I
necessarily.
agree.
But I did grow up with that. My dad used to tell me that about my brother all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't you be more like him? And my only answer was because I'm me.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no other answer. And I never gave another one because I don't. I never
yeah,
thought I needed to.
because you're two
Separate
completely
people.
different people.
I mean, I don't understand why I would need to be more like.
Yeah,
There's nothing wrong with me.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and the good thing is I never had to I never resented my brother for it, but it could have easily went.
Absolutely.
It could have easily went.
Mm-hmm.
I resented my father for it for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
but not him. And I'm glad not my brother, but not everybody I'm sure can see it.
Right. Yeah.
Whole relationships dash to the wind, dash on the rocks because comparing.
Comparing.
It's a thing. It is the cancer to your relationship if you
Mm-hmm.
compare. So
Absolutely.
let's just keep that on the minimum and let's just keep going. Number 8, to make you feel insecure. I gotta tell you, this is another tough one for me because how does somebody make you feel insecure?
Yeah, that part.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
That
I don't know how somebody makes you feel anything.
I mean, I think what they're trying to say is if there is um really the way they're treating you.
Yeah,
Um, so after a while, if somebody's yelling at you or they're disrespecting you, or I mean, even things like they come in the house and they greet you, after a while, I think it will make you feel insecure about yourself. 'Cause obviously you're gonna take it personal and you're gonna think something's wrong with you.
I would definitely
Um,
assume there was some sort of negative association
yeah,
with
right.
yeah.
after a while, you would think, okay, um, but I'm with you. I think it is not his job to make me feel secure necessarily. However, there are things that he can do that can cause me to question my security within
That makes
within
sense.
myself. So is is he making me feel secure? I guess yes, indirectly, if he is treating me a certain way. Um, but at the same time, he's not responsible for my security.
Here's what I can say. I don't know how somebody makes you feel insecure, but I know in a relationship or in a marriage, the way to help someone feel more secure is consistency.
Yeah,
Consistency.
yeah, absolutely,
Plain and simple. I mean, there's not
absolutely.
really a whole lot more to that.
Yeah,
I still argue with the concept of making someone feel insecure, but I don't argue with the concept of being consistent allows them to be in a better place to feel secure.
right.
So I guess we take it right there, you know?
Yeah.
Number 9, we're almost done. They won't compromise or apologize.
Mm,
Now, I'm the type of person who is okay compromising. I sometimes have a hard time apologizing, but I'll you um, but I'll but I'll compromise super quick. Um, I'll compromise super quick
you
because
really do. No,
yeah,
no.
because I'm not pushing my agenda. I'm not interested in pushing my agenda. I'm kind of a lone wolf and in this way, and I'm kind of a loner. I'm not gonna bother pushing my agenda. I'm just gonna do what I do. So if I
And
want
not
to,
apologize.
no, I don't feel the need to apologize.
No, not apologize for that, just in
Okay.
general.
Oh, in general,
You- My friend, you have discovered one of my husbands.
it's not that I don't apologize. I say I'm sorry,
He does say
but
sorry,
I
but
say
it don't come
I'm a
easy.
whole
It does
Capricorn,
not
so I
come
say sorry like
easy,
a
y'all.
Capricorn. I say sorry like this. You got it.
Yep. Fact.
That's how I say I'm
Fact.
sorry. You got it.
Fact.
I won't argue no more.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
gonna stay quiet. Okay, you got it.
Yep. Just salty as you want to
Just
be.
salty as I want to be. So no, but I'll say
No,
this.
seriously.
I'll say this about my wife though. My wife has something that makes her stand head and shoulders above a lot, in my opinion, and that is the ability to be accountable. My wife will apologize and say, "That was my bad. I'm so sorry. That's me. I apologize. That's not good. I see it. I know you see it. I got it. I promise I got it. But in the meantime, I'm sorry."
Hmm.
Here's a nice. She's a winner at that, and honestly, it's very disarming. I gotta say, very disarming because especially coming from the past that I came with, being guarded, emotionally speaking. It's one of the things that made me go, okay, she's not trying to hurt nobody. She's just trying to live.
Yeah.
So let
Yeah.
the lady live.
Yeah.
And so I think having the ability to apologize and do it well and is probably
And it's more than just apologizing, right? Obviously, that's if you can do that. That's. But I think when you apologize, I always stop and look internally when something happens and say, okay, what could I have done better?
yeah,
Where could I have? What did I miss? What just really trying to think about what my part in it was.
yeah,
And so with that comes the apology of, "Hey, I'm so sorry I missed this," or, "Hey, you know, I even if it's look, I've tried to understand what you were saying, but I just cannot grasp what you want me to understand, and so I apologize."
yeah,
It tells the other person that, "Hey, look, I've looked, at least for me, I've looked internally. I've really took a seat back. I really sat back and looked at myself and said, "Hey, look, this is where you could have
Yeah.
done better."
And she really does.
Mhm.
She really does. She doesn't play with it. She's serious about it. A woman with accountability under her belt is a very, very attractive woman. I'm just keeping it about.
Superwoman. Shout out to Tammy J.
Nice. Nice. And number
All right,
10,
last one. This is an obvious
this is
one,
an obvious
y'all. So
one,
we
and
don't have to go into.
that's abusive behavior.
Yeah.
And first off, if you're putting your hands on your lady, you need your whole ass whooped.
Oh,
You need your ass whooped. I'm not even gonna parse that out. There's no need. Especially in today's day and age, our young brothers are believing things like, you want equal rights, get equal less. That's some bullshit. I can't even begin to tell you how much bullshit that is. But I also can tell you that ain't nobody telling them that that's bullshit. That part, that part right there. So if you're in any kind of abusive relationship, particularly physical,
mhm.
please go get help. Call for it out loud, unabashedly, because no one deserves to be treated with that level of disrespect.
Yeah.
With in a relationship with somebody that says they love them,
Right.
that you share
Right.
your money, your spiritual life, and your body with, your emotionals and your mental. There's no need.
Back in our parents, the women didn't believe their men loved them unless they hit them. And I was talking to my father and my stepmom about this the other day because, um, in a lot of the Caribbean cultures, you know, that was how the women knew or they believed their men loved them
I think that's a trauma
was
response.
by hitting them.
I think that's a trauma response over
And
time.
the men would get together, they would talk, and they were like, "Yeah, when I get home, I'm gonna beat her ass." Like, just that was what you did, and the woman was like, "Okay, well, he doesn't love me if he doesn't beat me."
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
interesting
it is
that
interesting.
that was culturally was what was expected almost. Um, so I just thought that when we were talking to them about it, I just thought that that was interesting.
It
But
was very interesting to hear how the history of how they grew up. But again, those men grew up not to do that. So there was some influence wherever it came from that was able to counterbalance and counteract that thought process. So those same men, they wouldn't do that. Maybe it's because they live in America and that's just not tolerated in the way it is in some places.
in other
But
places.
I'll tell you this, those are the same men who would fall on their sword if it was this one getting. I would have a string of dudes who I have to fight between brothers, uncles, fathers, friends of friends. It wouldn't go down. It just wouldn't. I don't know. Maybe that's the case. Maybe the environment's different. But here's what I will say: if you are in trouble and you are in need of help, please go get help.
And if you're in a verbal relationship, verbally abusive relationship,
Agreed.
it's not always physical, but if you're getting, if there's a lot of name calling, there's a lot of just putting you down, all of that. That's not healthy.
Not
It's
healthy.
not
and
healthy.
necessary.
It's not healthy in any form or fashion or any way is that healthy. So make sure that um, pay attention to that. Um, you don't hurt or um, you don't, that is not how you show love. But like I said, there are other places where that is
It's acceptable.
just accepted
And
and expected at that point.
it's the expected part that trips
Yeah.
me. The expected part that trips me out. But
Yeah.
these are the red flags that we wanted to bring to you guys today, and we wanted to just kind of chat through them real quick because we think it's important to know the roadblocks, know the stumbling blocks that may lay ahead in a relationship.
Mhm.
But it's also good to get those things aired out right on the table, right early and right
Right.
up front,
Yep.
to really start a conversation and really have it in place that you have made up in your mind what that's like, You know, we have daughter. We have a daughter,
Mhm.
and so it's important for me as the man in their life to be able to speak on it and to say, "This is not what you want.
Right.
I know this may seem interesting, but this is not what you want. This leads you here."
Mhm.
And to be able to really talk through that with her and to be able to speak into her, as well as, and most importantly, be the example
Yeah.
and model the things she wants,
Yes.
the things she would believe that I believe she may want when that time comes.
Right.
Opening the dialogue and understanding and just a little bit of empathy goes a long way.
A long way.
So remember that, like we've been saying this whole video, remember to like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Let's talk. And if you are not subscribed but you enjoy what we're doing here, leave a comment. Let us know who you are. So we can get a chance to say thank you for tuning in. We sincerely appreciate it. You know, as always, I'm gonna say we're better
Together.
together. Peace, y'all.
Peace.